What we're going to explore now is called the iceberg. It's an age-old analogy that we have used to explain human behavior. Why would we say that? Because what you see, what you can perceive of a person is often just the tip. Okay, so there's a lot that lies beneath. What can you observe in each other? We call them our actions, our behaviors. And this is not just what you can see, but what you can perceive, which it could be virtual as well. It could be through email communication, on the call. So it's how you experience the behaviors of another human being. So right here, we have behaviors. Behaviors, when they're repeated, they become habits. And when habits are repeated within a closed group, then they become the culture of that group. Our behaviors, our action, our language, all that leads to the results and the outcomes that we create in our lives, in our relationships, both personally and professionally. Why do we introduce the iceberg here? Because we often talk about changing behaviors. We often talk about let's live our values more fully. Now, in order to do that, we need to first understand what is it that drives our behaviors and why are values so important. What do you think drives your behaviors immediately? The first thing that causes you to act a certain way, what is that? It's your thoughts. Okay, what I'm thinking, consciously or subconsciously, is going to impact how I behave. So right here we have and then what else do we have? We have our feelings. How I feel will definitely affect how I behave. So if I was feeling extremely energized and enthusiastic and happy, you're going to see it in my presence. You're going to hear it in my voice. You're going to perceive it in anything that you receive from me. Whereas if I was low energy, and tired, and feeling demotivated, and feeling sad, and insecure, and anxious, then surely you're going to see that in my behavior as well. So especially when we are trying so hard, all of us, to be authentic, then we do want people to know how we feel. So often our behaviors will reflect how we're feeling and what we're thinking. You may also notice that depending on the relationship you have with someone, we allow the waterline to drop. And we show a little bit more of ourselves to people who we feel safe around. Okay, so that's our thoughts and our feelings. So what lies below that? They are our values and our priorities. Our values, what we value, what we hold very dear to us, impacts our behaviors so much. If you're still unsure about what some of your top values are, think about the times when you do get upset, when you witness something and you feel uncomfortable and you don't feel good about it. Often it's because one or two of your values have been stepped on. So I have a huge value for freedom and for respect. Where I see freedoms being taken away from someone, I get really upset. So often what upsets you will tell you what your values are. And if you look at the things that you have in your life, the life that you've created for yourself, you realize that more than often you have been trying to live your values. If you don't see that, then think about what it is that you are really living. Because we could have values that we know and that we aspire for, but we could also have subconscious things running our behaviors. And it's important to know what they are. Because if you don't know what's driving your behaviors subconsciously, then it's very difficult to shift the outcomes and the results that you have in your life. So what is really driving your behaviors? So another good test is to look at your priorities. Do you look at the outcomes that you have in your life? If you say that you truly value family, but then you look at your calendar and you realize that you spend very little time with them, then check, because something else is more important to you. If you would be honest with yourself, something else is driving your behaviors. Needs. The best way to talk about needs is thanks to Abraham Maslow. So he created a pyramid and it's called the hierarchy of needs. Very basic description of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have survival at the very bottom. Then we have belonging or relationships. Then we have self-esteem, followed by self-actualization. Survival is about getting your basic needs met. Survival, when it's met, when your sense of survival is met, then you have a sense that I have enough. I am okay. Me and my loved ones, we have enough and we are okay. Next comes belonging. Belonging is about belonging to a community, belonging to a circle, or a family, of friends, of even in the organization, of belonging, a sense of belonging. I fit in here. I feel that I belong here. That's also a very deep human need. And the third one, self-esteem. This is about feeling good enough, feeling recognized, appreciated, acknowledged, seen. Okay, I am good enough. So you've got, I have enough, I'm loved or liked enough, and then I'm good enough. Survival, belonging, and self-esteem. After that comes self-actualization, where the human being then starts to think about what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? How can I grow and evolve? How can I transform into a better version of myself? How can I stop focusing on just me and start thinking we? How do I contribute to society? How do I make a difference? How can I be of service? And those are the self-actualization needs of a human being. So we were each born with an internal yearning to self-actualize. However, many of us get stuck in the three levels of survival, belonging, and self-esteem. Now, in going back to caveman time, survival meant that we went out there and we hunted for food, and that we had shelter, and that we just stayed alive, and we kept ourselves safe from predators. Belonging meant that we belonged to a tribe, to a community. And if you see, these two are so closely linked, because what do you think happens to a human being if they were ostracized, or if they did not belong to a unit or to a community? What happens to their chances of survival? Does it go up or down? It diminishes. So you can see that belonging and survival are very closely knit. Even a lion, the mighty lion, cannot survive if he's been ousted by his pride. He will need to go out there and form a new pride, or else he'd become prey to the hyenas. So this is deeply embedded in our DNA. This is deeply embedded in ourselves to stay alive, to belong, and to feel seen. The thing though is, if we live from a knowing that our needs will be met and that we'll be okay, then we operate from our values, our thoughts and feelings are aligned, and our behaviors are awesome. We are living our best selves, best versions of ourselves. However, a word that we haven't mentioned yet is fear. What are fears? Fears, very simply put, is a perception that 1, 2, 3, some of my basic needs may not be met. So perceived unmet needs equals fear. Fear, another word for fear, could be anxiety, uncertainty, insecurity. So you see the word insecure? It comes from a perception that my security is being challenged. So this is what is underneath the iceberg. When we talk about changing our behaviors and we try to just change them across the top, it never works. Behaviors can only change when the human being has an internal realization that something is no longer working for them. So subconsciously or consciously, they're behaving in certain ways, driven by one of these or some of these that isn't working. And only when you have that realization deep within yourself and you shift that root perspective, only then will your behaviors show up in a different way. Our behaviors at the top that lead to the outcomes and results that we have in our life. Our behaviors at the top that lead to the habits that we form and the culture that we build. And we have underneath the waterline what we can call our mindset, to shift our mindset. We have beliefs, we have self-talk, we have all these things going on in our head all the time. And most of it is under the waterline. But all of it impacts our behaviors.